Kirk, thank you so much for being here. When I first got your book to read, I thought, it just makes me happy just to look at the cover. So sometimes just having pleasant things around us helps, because economic times are kind of dreadful right now. There's people are hurting in different ways, but you have written a book that you can really say helps people cope in difficult situations. Tell us why you decided to write a book about that.
Well, I consider myself to be pretty happy right now, but I haven't always been happy. I've had my share of tough times, and, people are really experiencing some tough times right now. And I thought that by living a good life and making the right decisions that happiness would automatically happen. And when it didn't, it devastated me. And it took me a while to learn how to be happy. And after that, I decided, no one should have to go through what I went through. So I wrote this book. So it's just an easy and quick read to be happy regardless of the circumstances.
And like you and I both know, it's a choice to be happy. So it's something that we ourselves make that decision to do. How do you suggest that people cope when they are having especially hard times and not give in?
Well, I think that you make a good point, to not give in. In fact, one of the things I tell people is to be resilient, and that you can typically handle a lot more than you think you can, and so to have hope. In fact, there are studies that show that when something traumatic happens in your life, that you will typically go back to the same level of satisfaction you did before the trauma. And my book just helps people accelerate that time period so they can handle it a little bit better. But be hopeful and say to yourself, things are going to get better, and you're going to feel much better than you do during that traumatic experience.
So it's almost like we're learning to extend that time a little bit more each time, so that when something else comes along, we're a little better able to cope with it.
Absolutely. In fact, happy people handle stress and trauma much better than their unhappy peers. And so if you can make the choice to be happy, and then make that choice active and powerful in your life, when something discouraging happens, it's not as intense as it would be otherwise.
One of the things I really sort of hit home in your book was talking about how we should limit our dosage of bad news each day, whether it's through television, newspaper, magazines, radio, people that we work with or whatever. And I think that's really true, but I hadn't thought about how we could limit that. It's there. I guess I just assumed I was going to be subjected to it.
I tell people to do exactly what you say, to limit your daily dose of news. In fact, I say, be a headliner 3 days a week. And so 3 days a week, you're only going to participate in the headlines of the news, either online, on TV, on the radio. And if the news is that important, it's going to catch up with you. But what happens is that you relieve yourself of hearing that negative news, and it opens yourself up to be happier and have more positive emotions.
But I also think that's kind of a habit we've learned to. We turn the TV on first thing we get up in the mornings, and while we're eating a good healthy breakfast, because we know that's important, but we're still subjecting ourselves to such negative things before we even get ready for the day or go to work.
In fact, there's a lot of negativity that just comes into us subconsciously. And it does take a little bit of effort to kind of turn the news off, to, do something else. Turn on some more positive music when you're riding in your car. But the payoff or the side effect is great. I mean, you feel better, you can actually be healthier, you can handle your day's events much better by doing that.
Well, I certainly agree with that. Another thing that I think is very important and that you point out in the book is how we have to learn sometimes to be grateful to those around us, to things we have, but to consciously be grateful.
Exactly. This whole idea of gratitude, sometimes people think of it as a platitude. And if I were to say to you, count your blessings, someone might think that's kind of corny.
Yeah, we hear it all the time.
We hear it all the time. But it really does work. And if you take the time to purposely write down and be grateful for the things in your life, it makes a significant difference in how good you feel about yourself, about your situation, and the people around you.
I think that's true. You also talk about how we can help ourselves by helping others, either through volunteerism or being a mentor to someone, whether it's at work or in a social club that we're in or just wherever. We know we feel better when we help other people, even if we're having a pretty darn bad day.
That's exactly right. You know, I say be a mentor or be of service to someone. And there's something that happens when you start to give counsel to someone who's having a tough time. It relieves the pressure off your own problems. You're able to see your problems in a new light. And you oftentimes give people counsel that you really should be giving yourself. But we don't.
For some of us.
But when you give it to someone else, it's almost like you're giving that counsel to yourself, and you're able to handle your problems so much easier. So being of service, volunteering, you kind of get outside yourself, and it opens you up to have happiness from the inside out.
Inside out. And I know I've heard lots of speakers and I've read lots of these self-help types of books say, surround yourself with positive people. But what do you do to get away from those negative people? How do you avoid them?
Yeah, because they're all around us, and particularly with so many tough things going on in the economy and politics, everybody wants to talk about that, and they only have their own opinions. What I like to do is I just like to excuse myself from the conversation, not really give an opinion back and, you know, respect them for their opinion, but excuse myself from the conversation, go somewhere else, do something else, because once you do that, you separate yourself from the negative energy and create your own positive energy. It really does make a difference.
It's hard to do, but again, we have that choice of who we want to associate with or be around. And last but not least, you talk about the importance of laughter. And we've all heard that laughter is the best medicine. I agree with that.
It really is. And if you can find something to laugh about every day, it really makes a difference. In fact, there was a study done that said that we laugh so much less than people did in the 1950s.
Oh, really?
In fact, people say that in the 1950s we laughed 18 times a day, and today it's like 5.
And we're talking a big, hearty laugh, right?
A big, hearty laugh. And, you know, there's nothing better for me than to laugh at myself, because I do goofy and dumb things all day. But if you can learn to take yourself less seriously, laugh about yourself, or go to a joke website or watch a comedy, you really create some endorphins that allow you to be brighter, it allows you to be happier, and you have much better days when you can laugh every day.
Well, I agree. Well, thank you for putting this in a book in a way that's easy to read and to learn from. And even if we know all of these things, I don't think it ever hurts to be reminded of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.